Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fireball Mullet channel. Look what's here. Yeah, that's right. We're gonna go over the Tremec Magnum F. Yep, that's right. There it is right there in all its glory. I'm gonna show you everything there is about it, all you need to know about the Magnum F, what's different about it, what's different between that and the T56 that come in the F bodies. Compare it to the Magnum, which was the original what all the guys use in the Pro Touring cars, and compare that to the TR6060, which came in the Camaros and the Challengers, the modern stuff. So hang on, and we got some great information for you as we get ready to go over this sexy, beautiful thing right here. All right guys, let's do it. All right guys, I want to talk about the Magnum F, more specifically the Tremec Magnum F, which is an evolution and it's pretty new. I think they released this in like 2019 or so, but this was a newer version of the Tremec Magnum that everybody was using in Pro Touring cars, right? So what's different about this is it has the tail shaft that's more like the Borg-Warner T56 off the LS1 F-body cars. So that's the big difference, is now your shifter for us F-body guys is right where we need it. So at least that's the promise of it. We'll see. But that's really the big difference. Most of the Magnum guys without the Magnum F before this was launched, they had, if you ran it in like an F-body, you would have to get some type of shifter adapter and all kinds of weird offset handles and stuff like that. So that affected shifting and everything else. But now we've got the Magnum F, and this thing is freaking beautiful. It's awesome. And what's great about it is it has all the heavy internals of what the Magnum had. And the Magnum, just for a little bit of a history lesson, had the same internals of the TR6060, what was out of the modern Camaros and the modern Challengers, right? So the internals of a TR6060, it shares those same beefy components. So it can handle a lot of power as opposed to the older 98 through 2002 F-body LS1 T56s. The Magnum, one thing that's different is the Magnum did have a mechanical speedometer as well as electronic. Now, this Magnum F only has electronic, and it's probably because the Tremec boys, I'm sure they were just thinking about the 4th gen F bodies, which all of them LS1 cars are all VSS electronic speedometers, so which is right here. And you know, us early 3rd gen guys, we've got the mechanical. I was hoping it'd have a mechanical, but it doesn't. So I still need to get the conversion box for that from Dakota Digital. So I think that's important to note, because the Magnum has both, and so I had to research that a little bit, right? So you can see here we've got the electronic speedometer, just like the T56 from the Borg-Warner version. Now, also note that this transmission is going to bolt in to directly replace our Borg-Warner T56, our LS1 T56 as they call it. So, and note that there's a LT1 T56 as well, but that's another story in another video. We'll stick to this one. So this is going to bolt right in. It's got, you know, the same sort of mount and everything. The plate, the front plate is going to mount right up to your bell housing and all that. And I'm going to use my existing T56 bell housing. The evolution of the 6-speed here. So first we had the Borg-Warner T56 LS1 style for the F body, right? Now there was the LT1 that came out previous to 98 through the 2002, and the big difference with the LT1 is it didn't have the provision for the hydraulic clutch mechanism, right? It had like an opening and didn't have provisions for that, and then also the input shaft was a different length as well. So if you have one of those, you're gonna have to get a conversion kit if you wanna use it in an LS1 platform. But Borg-Warner T56 was Camaros and Firebirds from 1998 to 2002, okay? And those 6-speeds came in, and they were nice units. And everybody in the F-body community, even Thirdgens, we all love those 6-speeds, the T56s. The problem is they only handle a certain amount of power, right? And we'll talk about the differences here in a minute. Now, the next up, evolution-wise, in terms of the timeline, is I think the 5th gen Camaros were the first GM, at least that's one example that I know of, that had the TR6060, and I think the Dodge Challenger did as well. But if you look at it from externally, those TR6060s are much different. It had all kinds of shift mechanisms here. The shifter was actually external instead of everything being internal, and the way it mounted. So definitely, and then also it didn't have a slip yoke either. So that's totally a different platform and was made for those modern cars, okay? That's not gonna work in our 3rd gen or 4th gen F-bodies at all. So that's the TR6060. Now what Tremec did was they took all the internals, right? Everything that's in here inside a TR6060 and put it into here, right? Bigger gears and better mesh synchronizers, beefier input shaft and the more spline output shaft. And so they just beat the hell out of it and made an amazing transmission. So the Magnum was almost the staple of all the pro touring guys, the guys that are upgrading their cars, right? With the 6-speed. So that was the Magnum. Now, this is another evolution of the Magnum. Same internals, same beefy stuff inside of it, except there's a couple differences here. The first of all is, one of the biggest things is basically this LS1 type tail shaft that they made where it puts the shifter exactly where the F-body shifter is. And that's a big thing, because if you had a Magnum, again, you would have to get all kinds of crazy shifters that would adapt that, and maybe offset handles and all kinds of shit like that. This now, it has a very similar, now I don't have the LS1 T56 from the Borg-Warner or the Borg-Warner T56 out yet of my car, but when I pull it out, hopefully I can do a side-by-side and I'll show that in this video, but I'm not there yet, so today. So when this video is released, I'm not gonna have the other transmission out to give you a comparison. But when I do the install, I'll show that, okay? So make sure you look out for that video coming soon. So the biggest thing is now we've got this shifter that's, it's gonna work right with our F-body cars. That's a big deal. And so that's the biggest thing with the Magnum F here. So really that's the evolution. We've got the Borg-Warner T56 F-body that came on the LS1 cars, basically 98 Camaro and Firebirds to 2002. Then we had the TR6060, which came in the modern Camaros and Challengers. Then we had a Magnum, which was Tremec's version of that, okay? That's aftermarket. So Tremec came out with the Magnum that basically gave you all the beefy components that's in the TR6060, but in a shell that works with muscle cars, right? Then here recently, and that's what this is we got the good old Magnum F, baby. And this thing is just changed the world for us F-body guys. Now we got a direct replacement. You running high horsepower, this thing's gonna take care of it. And I'll tell you how much this thing handles here when I give you the specs. So that's the evolution of this, guys. Hope that clears it up. All right, guys, let's talk about some of those improvements. Number one, you're gonna have much better synchronizers with this. So much better synchronizers, the way they're designed. And in fact, the way that they're designed kind of brings me to number two. Now, because of the way they're designed, you can have much bigger gears, more surface area. And the more surface area and the larger the gear, the harder it is it's gonna break, okay? So that's the second thing, is larger gears, handles more torque. Another one is, number three, is they have a single counter shaft, as opposed to, I think the
BorgWarner T56 is a two-piece. So definitely eliminate some of the weak points there. You know, when you have this much power, it's always going to find the next weak point, right?
Well, hey, you know, speaking of shafts, 31 spline output shaft, so you're going to have that, versus the 27 output shaft. Now, the thing about that is you got to realize you're going to have to do a different slip yoke that supports the 31 spline, and then you're going to also have to get a conversion universal joint, which I have over here and I'll show you in a minute, okay? So that's much better there.
That's just going to mean it's going to handle more power, right? Mo bigger. It handles 700 foot-pounds, and I think this is underrated. So I know guys that are running TR6060s, which again, if you remember me talking about it, the internals are based off of the TR6060, which came in the modern Camaros and Challengers. So they are running well over 800 in a lot of their setups, turbo and blower setups, and E85. So they're pushing these transmissions, I think, pretty well. I feel like my research is, I feel like the 700 foot-pounds is a little underrated. I feel like this thing will handle more. The BorgWarner T56 for the LS1s, F bodies, they were rated, I think, somewhere around 450. So that's going to be a difference there, a big difference, right? In fact, I was scared even on the dyno. Once, if you go back to my dyno videos, I had 3-part videos on that. I was afraid once I got the twin disc monster clutch in there, I felt like it was going to break the transmission next. And in fact, my 5th and 6th synchronizers started acting up in the car. And you know, I don't know if it's when the clutch blew, it kind of wrecked the synchronizers or what, but somewhere during that period, the transmission started to say uncle. The next thing is you're going to get smoother shifts with this. The way it's designed, smoother shifts, very positive. When you know, there's no questioning. You know when it's going to be in there and when it shifts. Sometimes when I'm shifting second, go up to third, I'm like, am I in third? This one's going to be very positive clicks. I think it's going to be my research. I'm just going off of my research here, but I have driven one. A buddy of mine has one in his car. So it definitely feels very nice.
It's super click, you know, I mean, I don't have a handle here, but you can just hear the positive. So I'm super excited. This feels like butter. And this isn't even with the shifter handle here. So I'm excited to now this is actually coming off this shifter here. So this shifter is coming off of here, and I'm actually putting my tick shifter in. So I'll actually be running my short. If you haven't seen that video, check that out. But I have the tick shifter, which is super nice. And then finally, what's better about the Magnum F than the BorgWarner T56? If you look at this shaft here, the input shaft, now it's the same number of splines, okay? Same number of splines, but this is not tapered. If you look at a BorgWarner LS1 T56, it has a taper right here, which kind of weakens it. This is all one big unit, just machined out with the splines. So big improvement on the input shaft, big improvement on the output shaft with the 31 spline. So that's pretty sweet, okay?
All right, guys, let's go over some of the specs for this Magnum F, okay? We've got the interface is a GM LS based. So pretty much everybody knows that, right? That just means that it bolts up to an LS suit. The torque capacity is 700 foot-pounds. It has an RPM rating of 7,800 RPM, which is more than I'm gonna rev Fireball mullet. The clutch release is hydraulic. Speedometer is electronic 17-tooth.
The input and output shafts, like I mentioned, there's a 26 input, just like your LS1 one, and your 31 output, which is different, okay?
The ratios for this transmission, well, you have two choices. You've got a close ratio and you've got a wide ratio option, okay? Now, all my research, and I went out to some Facebook pages that I go out to all the time, it seems like just about everybody's doing the close ratio. Now, don't get close ratio just because I said it. Do your research and try to figure out, because there's a lot of variables in gearing, what you use the car for. But for street, car, occasional race, that sort of thing, it seems like everybody's doing the close ratio. Now, the close ratio just means that first gear starts at 2.66. And the wide ratio means that first gear starts at 2.97. So go out to Tremec's website and do the research on all the different gears and try to figure out which one's more optimal. All right, how much does this thing cost? Well, basically the way that I'm understanding is Tremec has dealers that pretty much start all at the same price, and then they may choose to upgrade and add some things to it or whatever, but your basic price is $3,395. And so that's going to be pretty much the same price across the board. I don't know how sales taxes in your state or anything else sort of works with that, and maybe some variables there, but just know that pretty much the price is going to be the same between all those. Now, this thing bolts right in almost. Again, you got the 31 output shaft, so you're gonna need to buy one of these, okay? And that is on Tremec's site. They have an option for this. This is the Strange Chromoly upgrade for the 31 input shaft. That's $179. And then because you've got this slip yoke, you're gonna have to get a conversion U-joint that basically adapts your F-body drive shaft to this slip yoke, okay? And I think that's a 1310 to a 1350, okay? And then the part number for this one is that right there. It's probably backwards. UJ447. This is on TIC's website as well, or just call them. They're super cool. They knew exactly when I gave them my car. They were like, "Oh yeah, you need this one." That's why I like dealing with them, man. They know our cars. All right, so $3,395 for the transmission, and that's shipped. Yeah, $179 for the Strange Chromoly 31 spline slip yoke, and then the conversion U-joint, I think it was around 50 bucks or so, it might have been 60 shipped. So that's basically what you're looking at there. So, I mean, if you sell your BorgWarner LS1 T56, those things are going for like crazy. That's what I did to help pay for this. A buddy of mine bought it. So he's getting that plus the shifter that's coming out of the transmission. So, you could actually, it's almost a no-brainer, for what the T56s are selling for right now. So just kind of do the math, check it out, and see what you can do. My next video is going to be rating subscribers, so you don't want to miss that. I'm working on it actually as we speak. Well, not right now as I speak, but I'm working on it. And man, I got some great entries. So I'm gonna actually keep doing these. So if I don't have time to get through everybody, and I may choose to just go through and keep going through them. I haven't decided yet, but keep sending them, guys. If you haven't sent one already, it's not too late. I'm working on the video, yeah, but I think I'm gonna make this a series and maybe do them every Wednesday or Thursday. I don't know, do them once a week. And so we'll be rating my subscriber ride. So make sure that if you haven't already, send them in. I'm getting some awesome cars, and I can't wait to show you guys. And I can't wait to rate them either. This is coming from me, so what would Fireball Mullet rate your car at? Some people say who cares, but some may be interested. I want to give you like what would I do to them as well. So I think it'll be an interesting series. So that one's going to be the next video, and then obviously we need to get this in the car, right? So that's going to be the following video. Thanks, guys. Please subscribe, comment, share, and do all those great things. We'll catch you on the flip side.